in case you haven't heard, there's a movie about Gamergate already in the making. No, seriously. The question is, why? And that's what we will explore today. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Now, towards the end of last week, the internet has been buzzing that the former chairman of Sony is producing a movie based on Gamergate. Now, the movie itself will be based on Zoe Quinn's yet unpublished memoir, Crash Override: How to Save the Internet from Itself. Because we all know that this is exactly what 3-point-something billion internet users actually need. A messed up victimology expert like Zoe Quinn to come up on a high horse descending right from the United Nations headquarters to save the internet from itself. Yep, sounds perfectly legit. Now, the Hollywood actress Scarlett Johansson is being courted to play Zoe Quinn's character in the movie, which is an indication that the producer, Amy Pascal, is serious about this and, more importantly, she has the cash to do this. Now, I'm not going to go through all the saga and explain why Zoe Quinn is a cunt and why this movie is morally bankrupt right from the get-go, because I expect this audience to have at least the mental capacity of a 10-year-old, and also because there are thousands of channels on YouTube that deal with Gamergate news and analysis ad nauseam. Now, you don't come to Freedom Alternative to hear about Gamergate, you come here for much deeper analysis. So let's first state a few facts of life. For starters, all people function on incentives. Secondly, never suspect a conspiracy when a combination of incentives and stupidity can explain the exact same phenomena. And thirdly, always remember to ask cui bono, which is essentially the same thing as saying that all people function on incentives. So now let's look at the facts of the story. The producer is a former chairman of Sony, and this means that she's an individual who is moving away from the tech world and closer to the movie industry, which is a competitor. Now, admittedly, Sony is still a tech company primarily and not a movie company, but Sony still has been involved in both of the industries, but these are just details. The second fact is that someone or a group of someones within Hollywood is interested in funding this movie, as evidenced by the fact that they intend to bring Scarlett Johansson, an actress who tends to charge at least $10 million per movie, though word goes around that she charged $17.5 million for Ghosts in the Shell. So, Johansson is no small fish. And seriously, she's not your indie freshman in the industry who would do it for the cause. Although, at best, they might actually convince her to do it for a bit less than $10 million. But I even doubt about that because Johansson doesn't really look like the person who would give a toss about Gamergate, about Zoe Quinn, or any of that. It's way below her pay grade. It's perfectly understandable. Nevertheless, some big investor in Hollywood is willing to throw quite a bit of cash at this movie. Now, why is that? Because it's certainly not a short-term investment as it was with Avatar or other movies, which were pretty much guaranteed to be slam dunks and actually multiply the initial investment. I mean, let's get real. Zoe Quinn is a nobody on a worldwide level. Even with the whole force of the cathedral media, it's still very unlikely that the movie will generate enough buzz to make people go to the theaters and cough up the cash to cover the costs of making this movie. When compared to gamers, Zoe Quinn really doesn't matter at all. A recent survey showed that gamers will be quite a relevant crowd at the next elections, with the majority of them leaning conservative, which is not a surprise at all and perfectly in line with what I predicted back in July in this video. So why would Hollywood fund such an endeavor? The reason is still profit, but not short-term profit, as rather an expectation of longer-term profit for the industry as a whole. You see, Hollywood is old media at the end of the day, and they know it. Sure, they're not in such a bad shape like the cable news media or like the newspapers, but they're still on that spectrum somewhere. Now, mind you, I'm not saying Hollywood is going to go away. they'll be around for at least another 50 years, but besides the internet itself, video games are right next on the list as competitors for them. I mean, think about it for a moment. In the past, the nerds would talk about the latest movie. The fandoms were largely constructed around movies and movie franchises. There was a loyal fan base there that now simply does not exist anymore. And this is true all over the world, not just in the United States. 20 years ago, the big thing was the new movie coming in town at the cinema. Now, who gives a shit? It's been years since I stepped into a cinema to see a movie in English because most of them, let's face it, are crap. And the silent majority has an opinion similar to mine, and the folks in Hollywood know that very well. As such, they'll try to use this film to attack one of their big competitors, and I'm willing to bet that this is how Amy Pascal is pitching the movie to the investors in those closed-door meetings. And I don't blame her at all. When you pitch something to an investor, you're supposed to emphasize how will your product benefit the investor. It's just the way it is. So this would be the first reason why the movie is being made, to attack the competition. The fact that feminism is perceived as a good tool to do so is completely incidental. If Jack Thompson's ideas would have been popular now, big Hollywood would use those. The second reason is somehow related to the first one. Now, as I said, video games are right next to the internet itself when it comes to competition for Hollywood in the entertainment business. Now, the internet itself is long past the point of being shut down. Now, in all fairness, it's also long past the point where it can be efficiently censored, but the feminists and the investors don't really know that because they don't understand the internet. So from the investors' point of view, funding this movie would forward the message that at least some censorship on the internet is good, and from their point of view, this makes sense because they are disturbed by internet anonymity as well. Not just because piracy, but also because anonymous schmucks can subvert the rating systems of various review platforms and affect their income. Again, they don't have to care about Zoe Quinn. They might actually hate Zoe Quinn. But from an economical standpoint, it makes sense to invest in a bit of propaganda as well as to attack your competitors and prop up your business. Besides, I'm pretty sure that there are investors in Hollywood who believe ideologically in censorship as well. So, yeah, there you go. The third and the last reason is that it is a decent story. And I'm not joking. Think about it for a bit. It has all the tropes it needs to be a story that has been told over and over and over again for the last, 1,000 years? Seriously, think about it. We have the damsel in distress, we have the evil mob, we have the virtuous cause, and they'll probably find the savior as well. Maybe David Futrell, maybe Arthur Chu, maybe the United Nations. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that if you put enough bias in it, the story can be told in a very stereotypical and patriarchal way to fit all the tropes in the book. And you can bet that this will be the case for the most part. It has to. Otherwise, not even the philosophical opponents of Gamergate will watch it. Their lot is so minuscule in actual numbers that they cannot hope to bring in even 5% of the investment. So there's an economic constraint to at least try to make the story palatable to a wider audience. Now, will they succeed in doing so? I don't really think so. Again, Johansson may be famous, but Zoe Quinn isn't, and her story isn't impressive at all for the day-to-day lives of people who know nothing about this whole debacle. Unless they make it entirely fiction, that is to say to change everything, including the name of the main character, the story is bound to be a failure. And think about it for a second. As it stands now, it's the story of one of the most privileged humans on Earth cheating on her boyfriend, poking the bee's nest, and receiving words on the screen as a response. Yep. Very interesting indeed. So yeah, these are essentially the three reasons for which this movie will be made. They're not the only reasons, but they are, in my view, the three primary ones. Now, one last time, I'm referring here from the point of view of the producers and investors, not the coffee shop feminists and the kids in the Gamer Ghazi and whatnot. That is the grassroots. At the top, where it really matters, things are a lot more different, and nobody there cares about feminism too much, or bullshit harassment, or even about Zoe Quinn. At best, she will be the proper useful idiot. At best. Alright, well, I could say more about this, but, this is the age of short attention spans, and I want people to actually watch the video, so I'll stop here now. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and see you around on Freedom Alternative.